In the U.S., immigration has been a pressing issue, with politicians devising new entry regulations and stay durations. Ironically, the nation's roots trace back to immigrants, a fact highlighted by indigenous tribes like the Cherokee, whose legacy is interwoven with the nation's history. Amidst the waves of newcomers who arrived by sea, it remains important to acknowledge those who established their lives on these shores long before the well-documented migration episode. Welcome to another episode of the Natives' Journals, where we delve into the captivating stories of indigenous cultures from around the world. Today, we uncover the history of one of America's largest tribes, the Cherokee. We look at their origins, lives, and current struggles as a vital facet of American heritage. Come along on this exciting adventure to learn about their history. If you find this story interesting like we do, remember to click the like button and subscribe to our channel. The Cherokees are an indigenous group of North America with Iroquoian heritage who developed within the southeastern woodlands of the United States. With the Cherokees' roots dating back to the pre-18th century, their homeland spanned from southeastern Tennessee to northeastern Alabama. The Cherokee Nation is the biggest of the 567 tribes recognized by the government in America, with over 300,000 tribal members. Also, many groups say they have Cherokee ancestors, but only a few are recognized by the states. More than 819,000 people are thought to have Cherokee ancestors based on the U.S. Census in 2000. And this count includes those who aren't part of any tribe. The Cherokee also called themselves Enyanvia, which means principal people. They speak an Iroquoian language and have a system of writing their own language, developed in the 19th century by a famous and influential Cherokee leader called Sequoyah. Various theories surround the origin of the term Cherokee. Some believed it may be rooted in the Choctaw term Chalaki, denoting mountain inhabitants, or Chilokitbi, referring to those living in cave regions. The word might also stem from Muskogee, implying people of different species. As for their own origin, two main theories exist among anthropologists and historians. One suggests the Cherokee migrated from northern areas near the Great Lakes as latecomers to southern Appalachia, originally occupied by Iroquoian-speaking people. Another theory suggests the Cherokee inhabited the southeast for millennia. Elderly Cherokees shared an oral tradition of migrating from the Great Lakes region, settling in the southeast, particularly among Muskogee Creek territory, alongside ancient mounds constructed by the Mississippian culture. These accounts raise questions about the Cherokees' historical migration and settlement patterns, sparking ongoing debates among researchers. However, according to leading anthropologist Thomas R. Wright, the origin of the Proto-Iroquoian language was probably the Appalachian region. Back then, the Iroquoian language split into two groups, the northern and southern kind. During this time, when people from Europe came to America, they thought the Cherokee people in the southeast were one of 5 groups that learned to live like settlers. This is because they lived in permanent villages and started to learn and use certain cultural and technological things brought by the European American settlers. Contrary to the consensus among most Southeast archaeology and anthropology scholars, some argue that the Cherokee people's ancestors dwelled in western North Carolina and eastern Tennessee for an extended duration. During the late Archaic and Woodland periods, Native Americans in the area began cultivating crops like lamb's quarters, sunflowers, marsh elder, pigweed, and native squash. This era saw the emergence of novel artistic expressions such as shell gorgets, the adoption of advanced technologies, and the development of intricate religious rituals. In the Mississippian culture period, 800 to 1500 CE, local women introduced a new maize variety, Eastern Flint corn, resembling modern corn, leading to larger crop yield. This success enabled the formation of more intricate chiefdoms with dense populations across multiple villages. Corn gained prominence in religious practices, notably the green corn ceremony. A lot of what is known about pre-18th century Native American cultures comes from the Spanish explorers' records and their journey. In the mid-16th century, early explorers encountered people of Mississippian culture, predecessors of later Southeast tribes like the Catawba and Muskogee. From 1540 to 1541, Hernando de Soto led a Spanish expedition through Cherokee territory, as recorded by English colonists. De Soto's group visited villages in modern Georgia and Tennessee, governed by the Coosa chiefdom, which eventually became the Muskogee Creek people. Some of this information was only translated in the 20th century. Consequently, contemporary English-speaking scholars vary in their interpretations of the English colonists' understanding of historic Native American cultures. The dominance of English colonists led to a disregard for Spanish sources in establishing the region's history. Writer John Howard Payne documented pre-19th century Cherokee society, known as the Payne Papers, detailing the elders' traditional two-part societal structure with representatives for the 7 clans. Payne states that this priestly and hereditary structure held responsibility for religious tasks like healing, purification, and prayer. Simultaneously, a group of younger men, known as the Red Organization, handled warfare-related matters, although warfare was seen as a last resort due to its polluting activity. It is believed that warriors needed purification by the priestly class after warfare to rejoin village life. However, this hierarchy faded before the 18th century, and debates about the reasons behind this change. Historians suggest the decline of priestly power may have begun with a Cherokee revolt against the Anakutani, mishandling priestly matters. Ethnographer James Mooney linked the decline to the Parkingus Revolt in the late 1880s. Cherokee history is also sourced from materials by medicine men like the Didenvisky, and from Sequoia's creation of the Cherokee syllabary in the 1820s. At first, only the group called Didenvisky could read and write these things because they were believed to have strong spiritual abilities. But later, more Cherokee people learned the writing system. Unlike other Native Americans in the Southeast, the Cherokee spoke an Iroquoian language, suggesting they came from somewhere else. Some experts think they came from the Great Lakes area, where most Iroquoian speakers lived. Cherokee stories also support this idea, saying they split from the main group during a northern migration, along with the Tuscarora. Another theory is that the Tuscarora moved from the Great Lakes region to the southeast long ago. After much fighting in the 1700s, the Tuscarora returned to New York by 1722. The Iroquois Five Nations accepted them as the Sixth Nation, forming the Haudenosaunee. Language study shows a big difference between Cherokee and Northern Iroquoian languages, suggesting an ancient migration. Cholas proposed a split between the groups about 3,500 to 3,800 years ago, with glottochronology studies indicating around 1,500 to 1,800 BCE. The Cherokee point to Kittua on the Tuckasegee River as their original settlement in the southeast, now part of the eastern band of Cherokee Indians Reserve. In 1657, strife erupted in the Virginia colony when the Manahoac, Nahizan, and Rechahe Creans settled near the James River. In response, English and Pamunkey forces expelled them. The Rechahe Creans' identity is debated, but they resemble the Erie tribe, Iroquoian speakers from the Great Lakes. The Erie were eventually displaced by the Iroquois Five Nations in 1654. Anthropologist Martin Smith suggests remnants migrated to Virginia and later became known as Westo to the English in the Carolina colony. Cholas suggested the tribe might be the Cherokee, and by the late 17th century, Virginia traders established a small trading system with them. Cornelius Dougherty also known as Doriti 1690, became the earliest recorded trader to live among the Cherokee. The Cherokee sold Indian slaves to Virginia traders, captured from enemy tribes during raids for labor. In the 18th century, during the 1660s, the Cherokee provided refuge to a Shawnee group. However, at a later point, they formed an alliance with the British against the Shawnee, who were in turn allied with the French. They forced the Shawnee to relocate northward. The Cherokee also clashed with the Catawba, Yamasee, and British during the Second Tuscarora War in 1712 to 1713, marking the beginning of a strong and sometimes troubled British-Cherokee relation. In January 1716, the Cherokee attacked Muscogee Creek leaders in Tougaloo Town, which marked their involvement in the Yamasee War. The conflict ended in 1717 through peace treaties between the South Carolina colony and the Creek. Despite this, surprise raids between the Cherokee and Creek persisted for decades. The Battle of Tolowa in 1755 marked a turning point, with the Cherokee defeating the Muscogee in present-day Ball Ground, Georgia. In 1730, Scotsman Sir Alexander Cumming crowned Moytoy of Tellico as Cherokee Emperor, pledging allegiance to King George II of Britain. A treaty was signed in London, and efforts to take Cherokee leaders, including Atakulakula, to England followed. Political power remained fragmented among the Cherokee, and towns acted independently. By 1735, they had 64 towns with 6,000 warriors. From 1738 to 1738 to 1739, smallpox caused a devastating epidemic in Tolowa, as the Cherokee had no immunity. The devastating epidemic of smallpox in Tolowa from 1738 to 1739, which severely affected the Cherokee population, was mainly due to their lack of immunity to the disease. The indigenous peoples of the Americas, including the Cherokee, had been isolated from the Old World diseases for thousands of years, and therefore had not developed any immunity to them. When European settlers came to the Americas, they brought with them diseases like smallpox, to which they had developed some immunity over generations of exposure. Unfortunately, the native populations, having never been exposed to these diseases before, were extremely vulnerable, and smallpox, in particular, caused widespread illness and death among the Cherokee and other indigenous peoples. This phenomenon, where a population is exposed to a new disease to which they have no immunity, is known as a virgin soil epidemic. The disease and its consequences led to the death of almost half the population within a year, with some resorting to suicide due to the losses and disfigurement caused by the disease. Between 1753 and 1755, the Cherokee and Muscogee clashed in battles for North Georgia's hunting lands. The Battle of Tolowa saw the Cherokee triumph. Subsequently, the British constructed forts within Cherokee territory as a defensive measure against the French during the 7 Years' War. This conflict was part of the larger French and Indian War, which had its North American theater involving various parties. In 1756, the Cherokee joined forces with the British, but tensions grew, leading to the 1760 Anglo-Cherokee War. Even after this conflict, bitterness lingered. In 1765, Colonial officer Henry Timberlake brought former Cherokee foes to London to solidify a newfound friendship. Observations made by Timberlake in 1761 provided insights into the appearance and cultural traditions of the Cherokee people. The Cherokees were of medium height, olive complexion, often painted with gunpowder tattoos. They had unique hairstyles with decorated patches, stretched earlobes with adornments, and nose and ear silver jewelry. Cherokees adopted this custom from the Shawnees and other northern nations. Those who could afford it wore a wampum collar, silver breastplate, and metal bracelets on arms and wrists, They also wore cloth over their private parts, an English-style shirt, cloth boots, and moccasins with porcupine quill decorations. In 1771, North Carolinians settled on Cherokee land in Tennessee, while Daniel Boone faced attacks in Kentucky by Shawnee, Mingo, Delaware, and some Cherokee. As a result of these events, Dunmore's War, which took place between 1773 and 1774, occurred due to conflicts in Kentucky. The Second Cherokee War took place in 1776, during which the Cherokee joined forces with the Shawnee to launch attacks on settlers across multiple states. During this time, Nancy Ward, a member of the Overhill Cherokee, played a crucial role by alerting settlers about imminent attacks and highlighting significant cross-cultural interactions in this period. Provincial militias destroyed over 50 Cherokee towns in retaliation. North Carolina. Militias razed Overhill towns in 1776 and 1780. Cherokee leaders who survived the conflicts signed treaties with newly formed states by 1777. Dragging Canoes Group established a settlement along Chickamauga Creek during this period and initiated a guerrilla warfare campaign against settlers. This prolonged conflict, known as the Cherokee-American Wars, lasted from 1776 to 1794. The first, signed Treaty of Tellico Blockhouse in 1794, finally brought peace between the Cherokee and independent Americans. In 1805, the Cherokee ceded Cumberland Plateau lands to Tennessee. During the 19th century, the Cherokee territory between the Tennessee and Chattahoochee rivers retained its independence. As the trade involving deerskin declined, the emerging Cherokee Nation took steps to establish a fresh society. This transformation was influenced by the southern United States and occurred as their lands became more limited. George Washington aimed to modernize southeastern American Indians with the help of Indian agent Benjamin Hawkins. He urged the Cherokee to move from communal land to personal farms after Revolutionary War destruction. As the deerskin trade declined, pigs, cattle, and spinning wheels became vital. Washington's government introduced farming, weaving, smithies, and plantations. The modernization of the Cherokee tribe had officially begun. The Cherokee put together a national government under Principal Chiefs Little Turkey, who reigned from 1788 to 1801, Black Fox, who reigned from 1801 to 1811, and Pathkiller, who reigned from 1811 to 1827. Former warriors of Dragging Canoe, Cherokee leaders James Fann, The Ridge, and Charles R. Hicks, advocated for education, modern farming, and cultural assimilation. They welcomed Moravian missionaries in 1801 to teach Christianity and civilized skills, and Congregationalists later joined, establishing boarding schools. The American Board of Commissioners for Foreign Mission School in Connecticut educated some students. In 1806, a federal road crossed Cherokee land, where Chief James Vann established a tavern, inn, ferry, and cotton plantation. His son, Rich Joe Vann, expanded the plantation to 800 acres, utilizing 150 slaves, exporting cotton, and owning a steamboat. Cherokee sided with the U.S. against the Red Stick faction in the Creek War during the War of 1812. Guided by Major Ridge, Cherokee warriors played a crucial part in securing General Andrew Jackson's triumph at the Battle of Horseshoe Bend. General Andrew Jackson was a prominent military figure and future U.S. president who led the American forces. Later on, Major Ridge moved his family to Rome, Georgia, constructing a mansion, developing a plantation, and running a ferry. Though not fluent in English, he sent his son and nephews to New England for missionary schooling. Chief John Ross, an interpreter and protege, established a plantation, trading firm and ferry at Ross's Landing, Tennessee. During his time, several conflicts emerged between the elite and traditional Cherokee. In 1809, an American and Cherokee academic named Sequoyah began developing a written form of the Cherokee language. Despite opposition from traditionalists and white missionaries, Sequoyah introduced the Cherokee syllabary in 1821, leading to higher literacy rates than neighboring Georgia whites. The Cherokee started having meetings at Newtown, near Cha, in November 1825. They made Newtown the capital and changed its name to New Echota after another important place called Chota. They also began using Sequoyah's writing system. They had a police group, an approach to solve problems, and a national committee. By 1827, the Cherokee Nation drafted a constitution inspired by the United States, underlining their evolving society. A government with executive, legislative, and judicial branches was formed, along with checks and balances. Led by Major Ridge and his son, John Ridge, the two-tiered legislature chose John Ross as principal chief, aiming for English-speaking leaders to negotiate with the U.S. missionary Samuel Worcester. And Elias Boudinot established a printing press at New Echota, translating the Bible into Cherokee. In February 1828, Boudinot published the inaugural edition of the Cherokee Phoenix, the earliest American Indian newspaper, in both Cherokee and English. After the Civil War, due to their Confederacy alliance, the Cherokee Nation signed the 1866 treaty. As required by the U.S., this treaty ensured freedom for Cherokee slaves and full citizenship for Cherokee freedmen and African Americans residing on tribal lands, granting them native Cherokee rights. Some Cherokee had relationships with both African Americans and whites. Cherokee freedmen engaged politically in the tribe. The U.S. gained easement rights in the West, which became Oklahoma Territory for railroad construction. In the late 19th century, the government believed Native Americans should own their land. The Dawes Act of 1887 divided shared tribal land into personal allotments for families. Native Americans got land based on Dawes rolls, while surplus land was sold to non-Cherokee. The Curtis Act of 1898 dissolved tribal governments, courts, and institutions, including Cherokee courts, paving the way for Oklahoma and Indian territories to become a state. In 1905, the 5 civilized tribes proposed creating the Native American exclusive state of Sequoyah, but it lacked support in Washington, D.C. In 1907, Oklahoma and Indian territories formed the state of Oklahoma. By the late 19th century, the eastern band of Cherokee faced segregation. After Reconstruction, white Democrats regained power in the South, disenfranchising blacks and poor whites through new constitutions, voter registration laws, and Jim Crow laws, enforcing racial division. Native Americans, including Cherokee, were categorized as colored, facing racial segregation and disenfranchisement, like former slaves. They lost historical records when Southern states labeled them as colored, impacting their Indian identification. Constitutional rights were secured for blacks and Native Americans after the Civil Rights Movement passed legislation in the mid-1960s. The federal government monitored voter registration, elections, and progress. Tribal governance remained defunct from 1906 to 1975, except for Interior Department management. In 1975, a constitution was drafted and ratified on June 26, 1976, and the tribe finally gained federal recognition. In 1999, the Cherokee Nation added propositions to its constitution, changing the tribe's name to Cherokee Nation and omitting Oklahoma. The Bureau of Indian Affairs noted it's a successor, not the historical tribe. Under Principal Chief Bill John Baker, the modern Cherokee Nation has thrived economically with growth, equality, and prosperity. It holds significant interests in business, real estate, and agriculture through entities like Cherokee Nation, entertainment, industries, and businesses. The Cherokee Nation CN, has established health clinics, contributed to community programs, and built infrastructure like roads and learning facilities. It promotes gauge, fostering cooperation and self-reliance while revitalizing language programs. The Cherokee Nation became prominent in eastern Oklahoma, wielding economic and political influence. Also, in North Carolina, Chief Richard Sneed led the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, welcoming 1 million visitors annually to their cultural attractions in the Koala Boundary Reservation. Comprising more than 8,000 Cherokee residents, this community primarily includes descendants of Trail of Tears survivors. The Cherokee Nation worked with the Eastern Band on multiple shared projects, amplifying their influence and extending their outreach. The Cherokee Nation engaged in cultural exchanges and collaborative tribal council meetings with both Cherokee tribes. These meetings addressed shared concerns. While many Cherokees were in Oklahoma and North Carolina, economic factors like the Dust Bowl, World War II jobs, and the Indian Relocation Program led some to the West Coast. About 2% of the population in rural California, communities like Covello, Hayfork, and San Miguel, an Oregon town, and an Arizona town are Cherokee. Relocation also included diverse urban centers in California, like Greater Los Angeles and the San Francisco Bay Area. This demonstrated the spread of Cherokee influence and presence across various regions. They resided near farms, military bases, and reservations. In 2000, the census reported 875,276 self-identified Cherokee, but only 316,049 were federally recognized. Over 200 groups claimed Cherokee affiliation, with some like Cherokee Heritage Group supported, while others are disputed for seeking economic benefits. The three groups acknowledged by federal recognition maintain that they possess the exclusive legal authority to identify as Cherokee Indian tribes, and their enrolled members are the sole ones considered as Cherokee. An exception lies with the Texas Cherokees. Previously, they were under the Cherokee Nation and recognized in India. Once principal chief of the Cherokee Nation, W. Keeler concurrently chaired the Texas Cherokee and Associated Bands, TKB, Executive Committee. Post the 1976 Cherokee Constitution, TKB descendants linked to the Mount Tabor community in Texas, Rusk County, were denied citizenship. These ancestors weren't on the 5 civilized tribes' final rolls from the Dawes Commission. Yet most TKB descendants appeared on the Guyon Miller, or Old Settler rolls. This distinctive case underscores their unique historical and legal standing within the Cherokee context. After the death of John Ross in 1866, many Mount Tabor residents rejoined the Cherokee Nation, but a sizable, well-documented group exists outside its framework. However, this group isn't actively pursuing clarification of its status, despite having treaty rights traced to the Treaty of Bird's Fort. From post-Civil War until 1975, they were linked with the Cherokee Nation. In 1871, the TCAB emerged as a political entity led by William Penedari and Clement Neely Vann, aiming to address treaty violations stemming from the Treaty of Bowes Village in 1836. Today, most Mount Tabor descendants are Cherokee Nation members, leaving only around 800 in limbo without the Cherokee status. Many still live in Texas, Rusk, and Smith counties. Remnant populations also exist across the southeastern U.S. and surrounding states. Descent is often traced through official roles like Guyon Miller, Drennan, Mully, and Henderson, or 1817 and 1819. Treaties with the federal government. State-recognized tribes require genealogical proof of Cherokee heritage. The Cherokee Nation's current enrollment guidelines, endorsed by the Bureau of Indian Affairs, were highlighted by Cherokee Nation citizens during a constitutional convention. This convention ratified a new governing document, though it was approved by a small portion of the electorate. However, the tribe cannot alter membership rules while maintaining federal recognition. Membership changes need Department of Interior approval. Cherokee freedmen, descendants of slaves owned by the Cherokee Nation before the Civil War, were guaranteed citizenship in 1866. After the war, U.S. amendments granted them U.S. citizenship. However, in 2007, things changed. Cherokee voters passed an amendment restricting citizenship to Dawes roll-listed Cherokees by blood, excluding partial Cherokee descendants of slaves, Shawnee, and Delaware. This highlights the tribe's limited power over membership and the historical complexities tied to citizenship. The Cherokee freedmen were given a 90-day window to contest an amendment vote that revoked their Cherokee citizenship. They needed to file an appeal with the Cherokee Nation Tribal Council, and that appeal is currently pending. On May 14, 2007, the Cherokee freedmen were temporarily reinstated as Cherokee Nation citizens by the tribal courts. This temporary order and injunction were in place until a final decision was reached. Subsequently, on January 14, 2011, the Tribal District Court declared the 2007 constitutional amendment invalid due to its contradiction with the 1866 treaty safeguarding the rights of the freedmen. Finding a definitive solution for the Cherokee people might prove to be challenging. Their journey has encompassed both challenges and achievements, and perhaps their experiences should be heeded as a lesson when considering the current immigration challenges. Today, the government recognizes only 3 groups of Cherokee: the United Kituwa Band, UKB, in Oklahoma, the Cherokee people in North Carolina, and the Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma. Of the 3 Cherokee groups, the Cherokee Nation and the United Kituwa Band have their main headquarters in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. The UKB consists of descendants of early settlers, particularly Cherokee people who migrated to Arkansas and Oklahoma around 1817, prior to the Indian removal. They are the direct ancestors of those who were later compelled to relocate there in the 1830s due to the Indian Removal Act. Approximately 12,000 to 22,000 people today still speak the Cherokee language. History has demonstrated that the Cherokee possess an unwavering spirit, exemplifying their resilience. Ultimately, the essence of being Cherokee might be encapsulated in this unparalleled strength, an enduring quality that continues to earn admiration across generations. Conserving the history, culture, and knowledge of these tribes has to be an effort everyone is a part of. Thanks for watching this episode. We hope you've learned something new about the rich history and resilience of the Cherokee people. We're delighted to have been a part of your learning journey. Please share your thoughts in the comments box and let us know how you feel about this story. Remember to subscribe to our channel and click on the notification bell so you don't miss out on our upcoming episodes that bring history's forgotten tales to life. Join our community of history enthusiasts, and together, let's keep these remarkable stories alive.